So moving on now, constant electricity supply has eluded Nigeria for decades, but that may soon end if the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has his way. The minister said, as part of his ministry's short-term focus, he would prioritize metering, distribution, and transmission infrastructure to boost electricity supply nationwide. Jide?
Yes, these are,
in my lifetime, in our lifetime,
these are good initiatives. There's no reason why the distribution companies should be giving people estimated billing. And they've been doing this for so long. They've been doing it for so long. Access charge, even where people don't don't use electricity, where they are not supplied, you still expect them to pay. Why didn't we prioritize giving people meters before now? A good number of our people still do not have meters.
corruption.
They do not have meters. It's just that they have not invested, the distribution companies have not invested fully, not just on meters, but even transformers. Communities are the ones who most often are not buy their own transformers. That's why it's been suggested that the distribution companies need to recapitalize. They are one leg of the power chain that really needs a lot of injection of capital, because, for example, they are unable to take in all of what the transmission companies even give them. This is also part of the infrastructure challenge that they have. And the infrastructure challenge is also linked to liquidity on their part. So the minister will do well to improve on all of those areas he has mentioned. And you look at transmission, for example, it is still the only leg of the power chain that is not privatized. It's 100% owned by the federal government. The federal government owns 40% stake in both the GENCOs and the DISCOs, but they own the transmission 100%. Yet we know that a lot of the infrastructure, the transmission infrastructure has decayed. Some of them have been there since the 40s. They need to replace a lot of this transmission infrastructure. They need to expand the network, you know, so that even these cases of occasional, what's it called, system collapse will end. They need to embrace superior technology to improve on service delivery on the part of the transmission company of Nigeria. Yes, they also suffer from energy theft. It's not just the DISCOs that are suffering from energy theft. People stealing transmission line cables. They cause a lot of disruption to the system. So that has to be addressed. But I was happy to hear him say they are going to prioritize improvement in transmission infrastructure. That will really help us, because the transmission company is not doing as much as it should. They cannot match the generating capacity of our GENCOs, for example. They don't have the wherewithal. What I mean is, at their installed capacity, if the GENCOs push all they have into the national grid, transmission cannot evacuate all of what they are capable of giving them, because the transmission lines, the infrastructure cannot support that. President Buhari did a lot, invested a lot in the in transmission, but this investment has to continue. for us to get up to
time.
that level that we can say, okay, whatever the GENCOs are good enough to transmit, the transmission, to generate, the transmission company can evacuate. We are not in position to do that. Then the meters, I think that if they are going to support the discourse as they've done in the past, let them do it so that Nigerians can have meter. These discourse are stealing from Nigerians by not providing them with meters and simply giving them estimated billing that usually exceeds what they have consumed.
Adekunle, I think fundamentally, when we signed the contract with these discos and GENCOs, I think we got it wrong, because years down the line, you will see that these people, they've not been performing optimally, and there's nothing we can do about it. Nobody can set the KPI. Nobody can say, look, okay, this is withdrawal of your license. This is the punitive method we have against Ikeja Distribution Company, Ibadan Distribution Company. We've not had anything like that. It's as if that contract was signed and government can just only be watching.
You know the reason for that. Many of those that bought the discourse, who are they? They are part of the untouchable, Nigerians, the big men and women in our politics. But that's aside. 10 years after privatized, has anything changed? Do we have electricity?
Get it right.
You see, this minister, Adelabu, has a very good opportunity. He can shine and dazzle if he wants to, because there are so many things he can do, and the low-hanging fruits are things like what he mentioned. You can legislate, against, what do you call the other one? Is it postpaid system that
Prepaid?
No, prepaid is the one we use.
Yes.
The other one is when they bring their estimated billing. Legislate against estimated billing in the country, but penetrate.
Are you sure the guys within the system, they are even interested?
But if you don't do that, it will not work. Let me tell you.
These guys want to go from house to house to take cut lights, to be offered bribe directly.
Okay, let me tell you what I found out. If you, just like they do in other areas, if you penetrate any disco now, if you are in charge of so area, they give you an estimate of what you must bring, and they keep increasing it. So as they put huge, what you should bring on you, you distribute it. And many of them don't want, prepaid meter for everybody to have it, because the moment that happens, they can't come to your house with any crazy bill. And without crazy bill, they can't make some of this illegal money they are making. So it's business for them, suffering for Nigerians.
By now, this thing should have gone round.
By now, we need to legislate against it, that by so time, it's a crime to have this. You understand what I'm saying? And when you are building your house, it should be part of those
requirements.
Government with. But we haven't set the minimum parameters in most things in Nigeria, including building house, other than come and collect certificate of open, all those. There are other things that must follow. And our people in government know some of these things. Why they don't do it is what, baffles. For now, the last government, as bad as many people want to condemn them, did a lot for Nigerians. And one of them is on board, freeing electricity, sector. Now the state, anybody can have some of the things that they didn't know is possible. So the laws have been relaxed. So with this minister can partner virtually all the states can have their own electricity now. If you make the right investment, you don't have to depend solely on the federal government. There is one that President Tinubu and his team, they are working on, which is Siemens, whatever. If you see that one, that probably, if it works, may be the game changer. Because what they are doing, they won't rely on the transmission lines that are already almost dead. So they are doing a totally different thing, arrangement for them. So when they have electricity, they can wheel it out. We generate electricity, we cannot use it. What manner of system is that? And it's been like that for years, and nothing has changed. Despite all the investment, we only hear of the investment, we don't see results. And Nigerians deserve to see results.
Nigerians deserve to see results. Jide, when you look at, you know, even the rural electrification projects, by now, if encouraged, they are meant to have moved more than the way they've done.
We even have an agency for that, a special agency.
There's a lot of progress they've made in the last 4 years. I travel with them on a few occasions, and even people in the rural areas are willing to pay for electricity once they are guaranteed that it's
constant power supply.
Obudu, for example, I was there when the Rural Electrification Agency installed an off-grid electricity facility for them, and it was a real game changer for the people of Obudu and the Bottom Hill community. And you see, when you go to some of our tertiary institutions too, you see that the Rural Electrification Agency has provided electricity, off-grid electricity solution to students. It's there at, they have a very big one at the Federal University of Agriculture in Makurdi. They have it in Bayero University, a massive one, and even Luth. You know, at Luth, they have 24 hours electricity. It was off-grid power solution that the Rural Electrification Agency provided. I think that before now, we should have invested a lot more on the Rural Electrification Agency, mandating it to take power supply to some of the most distant communities in our country, rather than everybody relying on the national grid. And what the law that the government just came up with now is also largely off-grid power solution, because there is a law that says that once you generate anything above 50 megawatts, it starts to be fed into the national grid. That law in itself is an enemy of progress.
Yes.
Because we've seen states invest their hard-earned resources on building power plants, and then whatever they generate is forced to be pushed into the national grid. And when it's pushed into the national grid, it then gets redistributed. So you see a situation in which Kwara State, during the time of Bukola Saraki, completed the power plant at Gomo. Gomo is just outside the state capital. And the contractors left, where Yar'Adua just suddenly stopped the power plants. The contractors left, but Bukola brought them back, and they completed it. Now, what happens is, when Ilorin is one of the state capitals where people don't really enjoy electricity.
At all.
Whereas there is a power station in Kwara State, just after Ilorin. What usually happens, once it's generated and fed into the national grid, you even generated it, you may not have as much electricity as people do not have a power plant.
It is
of their own.
prioritized.
They just, because they now redistribute, because they now push it as far as Kishi in northern Oyo State and other places. That thing is wrong. That law, Nigeria has outgrown that law now.
It's backward.
When people, that law has to be amended, first and foremost. And when people generate electricity, the state generating it must be given preferential treatment, because they are the ones providing for everyone. So we can't have a situation with that state generating electricity may not even have as much electricity supply as some states that do not have at all. So what have they gained at the end of the day? What have they gained? You know, but if we can bypass the grid, it is not a problem if we can bypass the grid and have off-grid power solutions. It will really help, because it is clean, it is environmentally friendly, and it's easy to manage. In the universities where the REA has installed their off-grid power plants, the students have been trained to run it on their own.
Yeah, there's some organizations
They've trained the students. You go to BUK, the students, they operate it like this. Now, all of the, what usually happens before exams, students riot, all of that is gone because they have electricity. Even this university named after Ekweme, if you see the power of power grid that Arire gave them, you will be surprised. Very massive. And they've done that even with hospitals. I think they started doing it during the COVID era. They provided those off-grid power solutions during the COVID era. Many of the hospitals, including Lut here, they benefited.